Building a website used to take a developer, a budget, and weeks of back and forth. But now you can do it in 15 minutes with AI and zero code. But honestly, that is just the beginning of what's possible here. Because if I lost everything today and I had to rebuild from scratch with nothing but Claude, I wouldn't start a YouTube channel. No, I would launch a SaaS. I wouldn't spend 6 months trying to build a personal brand hoping something sticks. I'd do something most people completely overlook. I'd find businesses that need websites and I'd build them faster than anyone else could. Because here's the thing, businesses are not waiting for someone with a computer science degree or a fancy portfolio. They're waiting for someone who can just get the job done. And right now, Claude lets you do exactly that. So in this video, I'm going to show you the easiest way to build websites in 15 minutes using AI and no code, and exactly how you can turn that into something people will actually pay you for. Now, if you do want to master AI tools and you want to learn how to build profitable SaaS apps and websites, AI agents, and mobile apps with AI, I've created a complete masterclass that shows you exactly how to do it all step by step. My masterclass normally costs $499 to join, but since you are watching this video, and I'm very thankful, you can join completely free. All you gotta do is check out that link in the description to get free access to my masterclass, and you too can start building your own AI-powered business today. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's take a minute here first to look at what Base44 actually is. Base44 is an AI-powered no-code builder that lets you create websites and apps by describing what you want in plain English. Under the hood, it's using Claude to handle the design, the logic, and the development work. But from your perspective, the process is pretty straightforward. You just tell it what you want to build, and it starts building it. And it's not limited either to one type of project either. You can build things that people interact with directly, like portfolio websites and landing page and booking systems and client portals. You can also build internal tools such as dashboards, CRMs, trackers, and databases. And on top of all of that, it supports AI-powered functionality inside the apps themselves, which is something we'll be adding later on when we build the Calorie tracker. Now, the way it works is surprisingly simple. You type out a description of what you want, something like build me a portfolio website with a project section and a contact form. Base44 reads your request, figures out the structure, and then starts generating the project for you. So what makes this impressive is everything happening behind the scenes. Normally, building even a relatively simple app means dealing with design, databases, authentication, hosting, and all of the logic that connects those pieces together. And those are usually separate steps that require separate tools. But here, they're handled as part of the same process. So while we are focused on describing the project, Base44 is also creating the interface. It's setting up the databases, it's configuring user accounts, handling our hosting, and wiring everything together so that our app actually works. And that's why people are able to go from an idea to a working product so quickly. There's nothing to install, no servers to configure, and there's no code to write. You just start with the prompt, you refine the result, and keep building from there. And that's really who Base44 is for. Maybe you've never built anything before. Maybe you run a business and you need a tool for yourself or your team. Or maybe you just have an idea in your head that you want to test out without spending weeks learning how to code. And the platform is designed around the idea that if you can clearly explain what you want, then you too can build it. We're going to start with a personal portfolio website, and there's a reason for that. It's one of the easiest projects to build out in Base44, but it's also something that is genuinely useful once it is finished. So whether you're a freelancer, a designer, developer, consultant, or anyone who wants a professional presence online, a portfolio gives you a place to showcase your work and tell people who you are and what you do. And the version that we're building today includes everything that you would expect from a modern portfolio. We'll have a hero section at the top with a name, a headline, and call to action button. And below that, an about section, a project section to show previous work, a services section, testimonials for social proof, and a contact section so that visitors can reach out to you. And everything lives on a single scrolling page, keeping the experience simple enough and easy to navigate. What makes this project interesting is how little work it's actually going to take. The entire website is going to come together in just 2 steps. Count them. 1, 2. The first prompt builds the portfolio itself, including all of the sections that we just covered. And then the second step takes the finished site and publishes it to a live URL that can be shared with anyone. And that's it. We're going from a blank prompt box to a live portfolio website in just a couple of minutes. So let me show you exactly how that process works. All right, so let's get into the build. We're starting on the Base 44 home screen here. There is no dashboard to configure, there's no project files to set up, and no code editor to even open. Everything just starts with a single prompt box. And for this first build, I'm going to be fairly specific here because I do want the first version to come back as close as possible to what I do have in mind. And the more detail you do give to Base 44, the less guesswork it has to do. And that's usually the difference between getting something that's almost finished and then getting something that needs several rounds of revisions. So here's the prompt I'm going to use. Build me a personal portfolio website for a freelance web designer. It should be a single scrolling page with these sections. A hero section at the top with my name, a short headline, and a call to action button. An about section with a short bio and a photo. A project section that shows my work in a grid with images and descriptions. A services section listing what I offer. A testimonial section with client quotes. And a contact section with a contact form and social links. Use a clean, modern, professional design with plenty of white space. So I'm calling out every single section that I want here and giving a little context for each one. And that extra detail helps a lot because Base 44 doesn't have to make as many assumptions about the structure of the site. So let's go ahead and send that over and then see what it comes up with. And as soon as the prompt is submitted, Base 44, as you can see, opens up the editor and it starts generating the project. Now here on the right side, you can watch the website just come together in real time. It's creating the page structure, it's laying out each section, it's applying our design and filling everything with sample content. So you have something functional to work with right away. The process usually takes a couple of minutes here, so I'm gonna go ahead and let it finish. And there we go. That's the entire portfolio generated from a single prompt. So now let's scroll through it and take a look. Right here at the top, we have our hero section that we asked for with our headline and call to action button. And below that is the about section, followed by the projects grid, the services section, testimonials, and the contact area at the bottom with our social links and a working form. So everything that we asked for is already here in place, and the overall design looks pretty good and clean to me, and it's also professional without any additional prompting. So let's take a minute to look through our own version and make sure that everything is generated correctly. So check that all the sections are there, scroll through the page, and make sure the layout looks the way that you would expect. And once you are happy with the result, we'll go ahead and move on now to the final step of 2 and put the site online. The portfolio looks good in our preview, but at this point, it's still only inside of our editor. To make it actually useful, we need to publish it so other people can actually visit the page. Publishing in Base 44 is not something we do through another prompt. No, there's a dedicated publish button here in the top right corner of our editor, and that's the only step we need here. All we gotta do is make sure that we're happy with the preview before clicking it, because publishing sends the current version of the site live. Our portfolio looks ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and click that publish button. And that's it. The site is now live. Base 44 automatically gives the project a free URL on its own domain, so you can share it right away. And if you are on a higher plan, you can also connect a custom domain later, but the free link works well enough immediately. So I'm going to open up that URL in a new tab, so now we're looking at the actual published site, not the editor preview. And as you can see, there it is. Let's scroll through it quickly and make sure that everything carried over properly. Our hero section, it's here. The about section is there. The projects, our services, testimonials, and our contact section are all in place. The form is live and the links are working. Let's also check how it looks on mobile devices, because a lot of people who do visit our portfolio will be opening it from their phones. So I'll shrink the browser down to a mobile width and the layout adjusts automatically. The sections, they stack cleanly and the text stays readable and nothing feels broken or too squeezed in. Base 44 handles responsive layouts by default, so you don't have to build a separate mobile version yourself. And that is the full portfolio build. One prompt created the site, and then one more click published it. And now we have a clean, professional website live on the web. But here's the thing, because Base 44, as you've seen, is incredibly powerful, but most people, they still don't know how to use it properly. And they end up building basic apps that don't make any money or websites that can't even convert. And that's exactly why I created my own complete Base 44 Masterclass. Inside of my course, I'm going to show you step by step how to build profitable SaaS businesses, high converting websites, and mobile apps, of course, all using AI with zero coding required. You're going to learn how to build AI agents that solve real problems and generate recurring revenue, the exact prompts and the strategies that I use to create professional websites in minutes, how to clone successful apps and then add your own profitable twist, along with my proven system for turning Base 44 projects into actual income streams. It's not theory. This is not theory. I'm going to walk you through real builds. I'm going to show you my exact process, and I'm going to give you the templates and the frameworks that have helped my students launch their own successful AI-powered businesses. And again, my masterclass normally costs $499 to join, but only for the people who are taking the time, and thank you for doing so, for watching this video, you can join completely free. So if you're serious about building something profitable with AI this year in 2026, you got to click that link in the description to join my Base 44 Masterclass. Your future self, well, thank you for taking action today instead of just watching another tutorial. Now let's build something more advanced, an AI-powered calorie tracker. So this second project is a much bigger step up because we're no longer building a simple page that people just scroll through. We're now building an actual app where users can sign in, they can log their data, they can see their summaries and interact with the feature that responds to what they've entered. The finished app will include meal logging so that users can record what they eat during the day. It will also have a daily view that shows everything logged for the current day, plus a weekly summary so users can look back across the last 7 days. It will also include user authentication, which means that each person signs into their own account and only sees their own data. Then we'll add an AI analysis feature that reads the logged meals and returns a short insight based on the user's week. And that's the part that makes this more than just a basic tracker. The app won't just store data, it will use AI to interpret that data and then give something useful back to the user. And for this build, we're going to use 5 prompts instead of trying to do everything at once. A layered app like this is easier to build in stages. So we'll create the core first, test that it works, then add the weekly summary, the categories, the AI analysis, and the final polish one step at a time. So that way, every new feature builds on top of something that's already working. So let's start with the foundation. All right, so let's build the foundation of the app here. We're back at the Base 44 home screen with a fresh prompt box. The workflow is exactly the same as before. But this time, we're building an application rather than just a website. And since this project is going to grow over several prompts, I do want to make sure that the core functionality is solid before we start building and adding anything extra. For a calorie tracker, there are a few things that do need to work from the very start. Users do need a way to log their meal, of course. They need to see what they've logged throughout the day. And they also need some way to track their progress towards a goal. I also want each person's data to stay private, of course, so user accounts need to be part of the build as well. Now here's the prompt I'm going to use. Build me a calorie tracking app. Users should be able to log meals by entering the meal name and its calorie count. The app should have a daily view that lists every meal logged that day and adds up the total. Include a progress tracker that shows the daily total against a goal the user sets for themselves. Each user signs into their own account so their data stays private to them. Use a clean, simple, modern design that works well on desktop and phones. So this prompt gives Base 44 everything that it needs to create the first version of the app. It explains how users will enter their information, what they'll see when they open up the app, and the fact that every user should have their own account. So that last part is important because Base 44 can handle authentication automatically as part of the build. So let's send that over and then see what happens. As soon as the prompt is submitted, the editor opens up and the app starts taking shape in the preview window here. Base 44 is creating the meal logging system. It is setting up the database that stores the entries. It's building the daily tracking view, adding the progress tracker, and configuring user authentication behind the scenes. Now, there are several moving parts here, so I'm going to give it a minute to finish. And there you go. The first version of the Calorie Tracker app is now ready to go. The main thing to look at here first is the meal logging area. Users can enter a meal name, add the calorie count, and then save it to the app. So let me add a sample meal so we can see how everything works together. As soon as my entry is submitted, it appears in the daily list and the running calorie total does update automatically. And that's the daily tracking system doing exactly what we asked for. And right above that, there's also a progress tracker that compares today's calories against the user's target. So as more meals do get logged throughout the day, that progress will update automatically, giving our users a very quick way to see where they stand. You'll also notice that the sign-in system is already part of the app as well, and we didn't have to build any login pages or configure accounts manually. Base 44 just handled all of that during the generation process, which means each user gets their own private data automatically. So the platform also includes sample data, so the interface doesn't just feel empty when it first loads. And that makes it much easier to test the app and see how everything is supposed to behave. So let's take a minute here to try out our own version. Let's add a few meals, watch the totals update, and make sure that the core functionality, it is working properly. And once you are happy with the foundation you've set up, we can go ahead and start building on top of it. And the next feature we're adding is a weekly summary, which will give users a broader view of their progress over time. Next up, we'll make the meal entries easier to organize by adding categories. Right now, every meal is being saved into one daily list, and that works for a basic tracker, but it can get messy once users start logging multiple meals throughout the day. And most people naturally think about food by meal type, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks should have their own place in the daily view. So I'm going to add that with this prompt. Add meal categories. When a user logs a meal, let them choose a category from breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snack. Show that category as a label on each meal entry and group the meals in the daily view by their category. So I'm going to send that into my chat, and Base 44 will now be updating the app without rebuilding everything from scratch. It's basically adding a category selector to the meal logging form and adjusting the daily view so that entries can be grouped properly. The meal logging, the daily total, and weekly summary, those are still there. So this is just another layer on top of the app we already built. So now let's test it. And when I go back to the logging form, there's a new category option now with breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. I'm going to log one meal as breakfast first, and once it's saved, the entry appears under the breakfast group with the category label attached. Now I'm going to add another one under lunch to make sure that the grouping actually works across different categories. So that one lands in the lunch section, so the sorting is working the way that we wanted. So now each meal is tagged and it's organized instead of sitting in one long list. It just makes the daily view easier to scan, and it also makes the app just feel closer to how people actually track their meals. So that's the categories features done. Next up, we're going to add the part that makes the app feel much smarter. AI analysis. The next feature that I want to add is AI analysis. The app already does a pretty good job of helping users track information. Meals can be logged throughout the day, organized into categories, and then reviewed through the daily and weekly summaries. So the problem is that users still have to interpret all of that information themselves. But if someone, say, wants to understand their habits, they're the ones who have to go look through the entries and try to spot the patterns. An AI analysis feature can help with all of that. Rather than showing users another chart or another list of numbers, the app can just look at the information that they've already logged and then generate a short summary in plain language. And maybe most of their calories came from snacks during the week. Maybe breakfast only appears a handful of times. Maybe one meal category consistently accounts for the largest portion of their daily intake. It's those kinds of observations that are actually useful, but they're not always obvious when you're staring at raw data. And this is also a good opportunity to show one of the more interesting things that Base 44 can do. Adding AI functionality to an app would normally involve quite a bit of setup. You need an account with an AI provider, some API keys, backend logic to send requests, and a way to handle the responses coming back. Even a relatively simple AI feature can require a surprising amount of work. The Base 44 already has AI built into the platform, so none of that setup is necessary. We can just describe the feature that we want, and then Base 44 takes care of the connection behind the scenes. And that's what they call native AI integration. The AI capability is part of the platform itself, rather than something that we have to configure separately. And here's the prompt I'm going to use. Add an AI analysis feature, add a button labeled Analyze My Week, and when the user clicks it, send their logged meals to the AI and return a short, friendly summary of their week. For example, which category they logged most and any simple patterns in the data. Show the AI's response in a clean card below the button. So I'm going to send over that now, and as the update runs, you can see here several things being added to the app. There is a new button triggering the analysis, a dedicated area where the responses will appear, and the underlying AI functionality that connects everything together. Now, most of that work happens behind the scenes. Yes, it's handling the same type of integration that would traditionally require custom development. And then, a few moments later, as we can see, everything is ready. So let's test it using the meals we've already logged. I'll click the Analyze My Week button, and then I'm going to let the app generate a response. The request does take a second to process simply because the application is making a live AI call. And once it's finished, the app returns a written summary based on the actual meal data that we've entered. It's not pulling from placeholder text or a predefined response. The AI is really looking at the user's entries and generating observations based on what it finds. And that's a pretty meaningful upgrade from the earlier versions of the app. The tracker is no longer limited to just collecting information and then displaying it back to the user. It can now review that information and provide insights that help users understand their habits a little bit more quickly. Now, one thing that is worth understanding here is how the credits work. The prompt that we use to build the feature consumes a message credit because we are modifying the application. After the app is deployed, then every time a user clicks Analyze My Week, the app makes a live AI request, and those requests use integration credits, which are separate from the credits used during development. It is a small distinction, but it's also very helpful to know it if you're planning to build applications that rely heavily on AI features. Now, at this point, all of the major functionality is in place. Users can log their meals, they can track their daily progress, review weekly summaries, organize entries into categories, and generate AI-powered insights from their own data. The final step now is polishing the design so that the whole experience just feels consistent and professional from start to finish. And this keeps almost all of the original information, but removes the lesson plan feeling that AI-generated scripts often have. So the app is now fully functional and all of the core features are in place and working as expected. So the only thing left to do is the finishing touch that makes it feel like a real product instead of a prototype. Now, the polish, this is the stage that most people skip. Once the features are working, it's tempting to go ahead and call it a day and the project done. But visual details like spacing, typography, colors, and consistency are often the first thing users notice. They don't add new functionality, but they do dramatically improve how the app feels to use. Rather than making dozens of small adjustments manually, we'll just have Base 44 refine the entire experience in a single pass. So here's the prompt I'm going to use. Do a final design polish across the entire app. Make the spacing consistent, refine the color scheme so it feels clean and modern, improve the typography and labels for clarity, and make sure every screen looks polished and professional on both desktop and mobile. Keep all existing features and data exactly as they are. So that last instruction is important because we're improving the design without changing any of the functionality that we've already built out. I'll send that over now, and as you can see in a few moments, Base 44 is reviewing the entire application and also applying improvements across every screen. It's refining the layouts, tightening the spacing, improving visual hierarchy, and just making the design just feel more cohesive while leaving the underlying functionality all untouched. The update is finished here, as you can see, so let's do one final walkthrough. Now, starting with the meal logging screen, everything looks cleaner and really just more organized. I'm going to log a meal to make sure the functionality still works, of course. It saves correctly and appears under the proper category. The daily summary updates as expected, and the category grouping is still intact. Moving over to the weekly dashboard now, the charts and the summaries are still working exactly as before, but now the layout just feels much more polished and easier to read. Now let's test out the AI feature one more time. I'm going to click Analyze My Week, and the analysis still runs successfully and returns the same personalized nutrition insights, but now displayed in a cleaner, more professional-looking interface. So every feature that we've built out is still working exactly as intended. That's meal logging, meal categories, daily calorie tracking, weekly summaries, user accounts, and AI-powered nutrition analysis. Nothing broke. The app simply just looks more refined. So I'll quickly check the mobile version as well, and everything does scale nicely to a smaller screen with the layout stacking properly and remaining still easy to use. And that's the finished product here. Starting from a single prompt, we've built out a complete AI-powered nutrition tracking app with real functionality, real usability, and a polished user experience. So now let's go ahead and zoom out a bit and compare both projects side by side. Both projects are finished, so let's take a look at what we've actually built. So we'll start with the portfolio website, and this is the live version, not the editor preview, which means it's already published and accessible through a real URL. And as we scroll through the page, you can see every section we asked for: the hero section at the very top, the about section, the projects grid, services, the testimonials, and the contact form at the bottom. It's a clean, professional website that's ready to share. And the entire process really just also took 2 steps. One prompt generated the site, and a single click then published it. The calorie tracker is a completely different type of project. Rather than something people simply visit and read, it's an actual application people actively use. So I'm going to open it up and log a meal as lunch. The entry is saved immediately, the daily total updates, and the progress tracker reflects the change. And we can also move over to the weekly summary and see the chart displaying data from the last 7 days. And then there's the AI feature. So I'm going to click Analyze My Week, and within a few moments, the app reviews the logged meals and generates a written summary based on the user's data. So everything that we've added throughout the build is working together in the final version. Meal logging, categories, daily tracking, weekly summaries, user accounts, and AI analysis, those are all part of the same application. And what's interesting here is how different these 2 projects are, despite being built in exactly the same platform. The portfolio is largely a content and design project. Most of the work comes from creating the layout, organizing information, and presenting it in a professional way. And that's why it only took a couple of steps to complete. Now, the calorie tracker required a different approach. We started with the foundation, and then we added new functionality piece by piece, introduced AI capabilities, and finished with a design pass. There are more moving parts, more user interaction, and more logic involved, which is why building it in layers just made more sense. Even though the projects are completely different, the workflows never really changed. Because in both cases, we started by describing what we wanted, we reviewed the result, and then continued refining it until it matched our vision. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from this entire demonstration, because both projects started from the same blank prompt box. There were no templates, there was no code, no databases to configure, and no hosting to set up. A portfolio website and an AI-powered application just came from describing an idea and building it step by step. Now, not too long ago, creating something like the calorie tracker would have required a whole development team, or at the very least, a developer spending days or weeks putting everything together. But today, the biggest challenge isn't necessarily building the software. It's just knowing what you want to build and being able to communicate that clearly. And that's really what tools like Base 44 are changing. They allow you to focus more on the idea and less on the technical implementation. So whether the goal is a simple website, a business tool, or a more advanced application with AI features, the process still starts the same way. Describe what you want, build the first version, and improve it from there. A portfolio website and an AI-powered calorie tracker are about as different as two projects can be, yet they were both built using the exact same platform and the same basic process. Now, the first thing worth remembering here is the range of projects you can create with the same tool. And in this video, we built two completely different products. One was a simple portfolio website designed to showcase information, and then the other was a fully functional application with user accounts, data tracking, and AI-powered analysis. So even though the projects were very different, they were both built using the same workflow inside of Base 44. The second thing to remember is that the quality of the results depends heavily on the quality of the instructions that you give it. Neither of these projects came together because of luck. We were just specific about the sections we wanted, the features we needed, and how everything should work. So the more clearly that we can describe the outcome that we're looking for, then the easier it becomes for the platform to build something that matches our vision. So learning how to communicate an idea clearly is often more valuable than learning another tool. There's also a useful pattern behind both projects that you can apply to almost anything else that you build going forward. So for a website, start by defining the sections that you want, generate the first version, then publish once everything looks right. And then say for applications, begin with the core functionality, make sure that the foundation works, and then add new features one layer at a time before finishing with a final polish. And that's essentially the same process that we followed with the calorie tracker, and it's a reliable approach for larger projects simply because it just keeps everything more manageable as the app grows. The next project doesn't have to be complicated either. Maybe it's a booking page for a business, a CRM for managing clients, a habit tracker, an inventory tool, or something that you've been meaning to build for yourself. Now, the best project is usually the one that, well, you're going to actually use it because you'll have a reason to keep improving it after the first version is finished. And then from there, the only real way to get better is to just keep building. Every project teaches you something new about how to structure prompts, how to break down your ideas, and how to guide the platform towards the result that you really want. And those skills carry over from one project to the next, regardless of what you're building. And we started with a blank prompt box and then ended up with a published website and an AI-powered application without writing any code at all. So now it's your turn to see what you can build.